Hello and welcome. In a previous video, we already showed you how to use tasks for your deadline management in ContractHero. Of course, you don't have to create a task individually for every contract. In this video, I will show you how to set up task automation individually for your company and how every responsible person, thanks to calendar integration, will never miss a deadline again and thus, in the best case, never incur unnecessary costs due to missed notice periods. Important beforehand, you definitely need access to the automation area. You don't necessarily have to be an owner for that. I can now also, if I simply click on a person, allow this person to have access to task automation down here. If I go back to the settings menu, then I also see the automation item here. Here I can see already configured automations. That means when contracts are uploaded, tasks are automatically created based on this preset. But I can also at any time, we have no limitations on task automations, I can click here at any time and say I want to create a completely new task automation. In terms of the workflow, it's usually like this. I upload a contract, the AI runs over it, I verify the information, and if I have set up a task automation, a task is also automatically created. I then just check this task, adjust it individually if necessary, and that's it. Theoretically, I never have to look at the contract again unless I'm looking for specific information or I get a reminder or a notification pops up in my calendar. Attention, this contract is ending soon, and I should, according to my set task, check once whether I want to renew or terminate the contract. You can see exactly how that works here. Up here, we have various conditions that we can select. Here, we can also layer multiple conditions on top of each other. So, for example, I could say that in multiple teams and also in multiple categories, for instance, for all data processing agreements, AVV, or all NDAs, meaning everything that has to do with data protection agreements in any way, and only for contracts that are also active, I want a task to be created automatically, for example, with review data protection regulation. If I then click here, I can also select different date fields. You can actually select any date field that has been created in the field builder, provided, of course, that it also corresponds to the rules defined above. In other words, if the specific field is also available within both the team settings and the category settings, I can now specify here, for example, that I'll take the start date as my reference point. And then I want these particular contracts to be automatically checked and reviewed accordingly, exactly 1 year after that initial start date has passed. It really gives you that extra layer of control over the timeline. Of course, you can set all of this individually here as you wish. And then I also want to say that this should repeat annually, and I might want to have a reminder 1 week before that as well. In that case, I would set myself as the person who should receive this reminder, and then I would also select Julia Lorenz as my substitute in case I'm on vacation or in exceptional cases sick. Down here, I can add more. It's not a mandatory field, but an optional one. At this point, I could add some further information that is quite important for us to consider. Here, for example, if you take a look, you can see the specific details regarding the CERTOS regulation. And the section down here only applies if I have already uploaded contracts and am only then creating the automation. That means there is no perfect time at which I can create the task automation. It is, of course, always recommended from the start during setup. We also take a look at this during onboarding, of course, to consider from the beginning. Which tasks do I need, or rather, which deadlines do we want to keep a particularly close eye on? To then set up an automation for that automatically from the start. It can also be adjusted at any time. But often it's also the case that once I've created the first few tasks for certain contracts, I realize which automation will help me so that I no longer have to create tasks manually, but rather that I can now set up an automation for this automatically. Exactly. Once I've done that, I could click yes here. Then I click here behind my head is a small button that says save changes. I can click on that and then this automation is saved. The task was also created for that one contract. If new contracts are now uploaded into these teams, into these categories that are active, then a task will also be created automatically. This is always in alphabetical order here. That means the check data protection regulation task automation that I just created, we can see it here in second place. So I can go in at any time and adjust it as well. From the front end, the whole thing then naturally looks like this. I can then go in either via the contracts and then search for the category DPA or NDA. That was it too. I can also see here how many tasks have been stored. This means I have it right here in the front. I can see directly which tasks were created, and I'll just go into this contract now, see the task here, and then also have the option here if necessary, because no start date was found here. Here I could, of course, also change the automatically created task from the dynamic date to a fixed date at any time. The use case for this is, of course, everywhere where either the AI didn't find a date or where there simply isn't actually a date in the contract. So with NDAs, of course, often, or data processing agreements, AVVs, refer to the original framework agreement and to the data that is recorded therein. That means here I could, of course, also simply make a fixed adjustment at any time and thus have this task cleaned up accordingly here. However, through automation, we take away the mental load of having to ask yourself with every contract that is uploaded, do I need a task here? Do I want to be reminded here? And what is, of course, even nicer, if I now go into the calendar view here, I can then also create a view here of, for example, tasks or contracts. And once I've created the view just the way I'd like it, I can then also have a calendar link created from my view, copy it, and then provided I integrate it into my whether it's Gmail or Outlook or Apple Calendar, I then always have the link directly back to the contract or task in my individual personal calendar, even outside of ContractHero. In the overview, I can, of course, also create an individual report, for example, with tasks without an assigned person, and then see here accordingly how many tasks or how many contracts and tasks there are that haven't been assigned to anyone yet, and could thus also have a small check marker in the overview, depending on my position or for myself, to ensure that all my tasks or my contracts have the corresponding reminders. That's it for task automation and calendar integration in ContractHero. If you would like to see what this looks like with your own deadlines, book a demo via the link in the description. We look forward to seeing you.